Hello, and welcome to Write Volumes Behind the Volume presents Shades of Craft video series. My name is Janaea. I am one of the editors and founders of Write Volumes. Our goal is to give diverse voices an outlet for expression and to bring attention to diverse writers and our thoughts. We are releasing monthly new interviews with some of the writers, and some will be video and some will be written, featuring our wonderful writers to help people like you get to know them better. We also launched a one-question video series where we will ask a panel of writers one question, ranging from the role of writers in society to how readers perceive stories, and then see how it affects them, their writing, and the readers. And now, the craft series that you're watching is being used to help dive into writing. In these discussions, we will focus on one area of the writing craft and take a deeper dive into what it is and highlight examples of it in some stories. So far, it's a two-part series, but we can create more if viewers have more questions to dive into. Our guide on this writing adventure will be Matthew. Matthew Vargo lives and writes in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he is pursuing a creative writing MFA at Chatham University. His work is published and forthcoming in the National Gay and Lesbian Review, Beyond Words Literary Magazine, and Wingless Dreamer. He is also a founding member of Write Volumes. Today's craft talk, we want to discuss Flash. So Matthew, what is Flash?
Thank you, Janaea. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm really excited to be discussing Flash with you because it's definitely one of my favorite genres to both read and then also to write in. And fun factoid that I found related to Flash is actually this year, the first collection of Flash artifacts has been curated at the University of Texas at Austin at their Harry Ransom Center. And so it's really a collection of anthologies, chapbooks, and then also work that's written about sort of the craft of writing Flash. And so I'm pretty excited to be talking about it. And it's definitely something where, you know, Flash is a solid part of the writing community and is has a growing body and corpus of work around it. Robert Shepard has a really good quote about Flash in the introduction of Sudden Fiction that I wanted to read that I think is sort of indicative of what Flash is, and that it's highly compressed, highly charged, insidious, protean, sudden, alarming, tantalizing. These short shorts confer form on small corners of chaos, can do in a page what a novel does in 200. Yeah, and I think that helps to describe Flash, right? It's really any work of fiction that is brief. But of course, as you know, what brief means is super fluid, right?
Yeah, there's so much variation. It can be very confusing. There's like Twitterature based on Twitter's characters count. I also read that there's dribble, which is 50 words or less, drabble, which is 100 words, sudden fiction, which is 750 words. But most places I've submitted to for Flash is 1,000 words or less. But I've seen some magazines called Pieces, 2,200 words, Flash. So varying lengths, but in general, when I'm writing Flash, I try to keep it under 1,000 words and adjust it according to the submission guidelines. So really, we're taking our cues from the places that we're actually submitting the pieces to. But again, the length should also be determined by the story idea.
Yeah.
So you don't want to like take a 300-word piece and then try to extend it into 1,000 words unless you add more conflict or more character development or something else into the piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Flash is like, it's really cool because it can be responsive to that, right? It can be responsive to being in a shorter space or in a smaller space. Yeah, I think that it's interesting to talk about sort of responding to like the definition of flash from like a word count from the perspective of like publication. Because I know, Janaea, we've talked about like whether or not Flash needs to have, you know, like strong storytelling elements, such as like beginning, middle, and end, right? And I think a lot of people would say like, no, Flash definitely doesn't have to have that. But also, if I think you look at like really practically, a lot of what some of the main journals who are publishing Flash right now, like what they're looking for that contained story that does have elements of those narrative elements, sort of all combined into one, right? And into the right size package. And to me, when I'm thinking about like the basics of writing Flash, right? How do you put it together? Having an idea of what your story arc is probably like a really good place to start. And what is the story that you're telling from that beginning, middle, and end perspective? And then also a couple other things just to keep in mind when we are writing Flash, is that really Flash is about impact, and it's about taking a strong emotion or a really strong idea and conveying it with brevity, right? And then I think the last sort of guidepost for writing Flash would be we're wanting to write stories that are going to stay with our readers for a long time. So small, really impactful stories that people think about, and we have a lot of examples, I think, in our anthologies of these like really cool stories that do stay with us.
Yeah, for me, the premise and the idea are key to Flash. So some kind of twist or novelty to the idea that is fresh. The clever factor plays a role for me more in Flash than in any other writing, except for maybe poetry. And poetry is similar to Flash for me because like a lot of times the ending can leave you guessing, but in a good way, as in multiple meanings and not just unclear as in, wait, what just happened? What did I just read? What's going on? So you probably never really want that reaction after somebody reads your piece, like, I don't understand what just happened.
Yeah.
But if it's multiple meanings, like, wait, did they mean this? Or did they mean this? Or did they mean this? Then that's good because that stays with the reader in like all three. So some examples of the Flash pieces that highlight a strong premise in our anthologies is Therapist Paratroopers by Cameron Vanderwerf, which is under 700 words, and then Left, Right, Straight Down the Middle by Sheila M. Cronin, which is around 1,000 words. So the idea, so Cameron's piece, Therapist Paratroopers, is the idea
Love that piece.
I know, this idea of ordering a therapist to parachute to you during your time of need. And that was just such an intriguing idea. And the whole story was quirky. So I kept wondering what would happen next. And I know the first time I heard the story, it really stuck with me. And I actually asked Cameron a year or two after I had read the piece, because I still kept thinking about it, if we could use it in these anthologies. And originally the piece was a little bit longer, and he shortened it. And I honestly, I don't know what he shortened, but he really distilled it to its essence. And the end is both really haunting and hopeful at the same time. So I'm like, left with this like happy, sad feeling, which is really unique. And then, while Left, Right, and Straight Down the Middle plays with the idea of hemispheres in the mind and how being left-handed or right-handed could affect your action and the choices. And the conflict being what happens when you can't use your dominant hand for a significant amount of time. And the author, she does this with such a conversational and humorous tone. The story really takes the reader on this fun ride. Even when it ends, it left me wondering, what would happen to me if I couldn't use my dominant hand? Like, would my mind really change or not change? Or like, what would happen to me? So, I don't know. I like those pieces. They both really stick with me.
Yeah. The change in the mind it does make you think. It's so sort of surreal and cool in that way. And I think that there's also some like really good examples of these Flash pieces that have strong emotional connections as well, or emotional elements as well. A couple that really stand out to me are The Journey by A. Salinas and then Your Apartment Anywhere by Shelby Powers. The Journey it's about 800 words. And really the neat thing about this story is that it relies heavily on measuring time. So much of the text is sort of describing the time that the main character is taking as they take on this new challenge in their life, which is sort of like a fitness challenge. But what's really cool is that then, like, as you keep reading in this small space, you get pulled into the time intervals, and then all of a sudden you're with like the main character as they go through every like step of the process. And then you as the reader get to go with them and either like celebrate with them or like sit in sadness with them as they fail. You'll have to read it to know what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool. Like it leaves you with this definite feeling afterward. There's just this feeling that permeates out of the piece, which I really love.
Yeah.
And then another one that really sticks out to me is Your Apartment Anywhere by Shelby Powers. That one's just about 600 words, so it's really short. And it's also the first story in our horror anthology. So I think that we can, or readers can read it for free online, which is super cool. But what this story does is something that I really like in fiction, which is taking sort of like a common experience that people have, which, it could be a loss, a fear, anything, right? And then instead of sort of doing maybe what the easy thing is, which is just reporting that experience, this was a scary experience, this happened, like instead it goes in really close and focuses on very specific things in that moment. And that's what Shelby does in this piece. There's this kind of like common nightmare experience that people have. And so it focuses on that. And then moment by moment, we sort of, as readers, experience this horror, right? But we experience it in our body, which is really cool with the piece.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. After reading that piece, oh my goodness, it was just really spooky, creepy, everything all rolled up in one.
Yes, I worry now. Serious. I go to bed and I worry because I'm like, oh, I don't want to have that dream.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want that happening to me at all.
Yeah.
So yes, Flash, amazing pieces. Flash is important for literature as creative exploration, idea generators, and like process practice. So length is not indicative of the impact, and readers can definitely benefit from this writing technique. Like Flash fiction dates back to the time of fables and parables and has a strong future, like the new Flash artifact collection, Matthew, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like Flash, we have to keep this video short and sweet. This is all the time we have. So thank you for everyone for listening. This is Behind the Volumes, a look at Write Volumes in the Making, Shades of Craft. Please check out writevolumes.com for our latest info. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you have any questions you're curious about and think could be good for our Shades of Craft series, please message me at Write Volumes on Twitter or Facebook, or email us at writevolumes@gmail.com. And perhaps your question will be featured as a topic. So thanks again, everybody. And thank you, Matthew, for your time. And
thank you.
And remember, together we can write volumes. Thank you.